Hey folks, David Stewart here. Hope you guys are having a great day. Let's talk about this game. Is it a game? It's called Mixtape. And IGN gave it a 10 out of 10, meaning it is a better game, according to them, than Skyrim. And if you want to know the sum of the online discussion so far about this game, is that it's not an indie game. It's possibly not a game, but the game journalists are saying it's one of the best games ever, and it's an indie game. It's made by the daughter of Larry Ellison, Oracle CEO, multi-billionaire. Okay, so it's made by a billionaire, but it is supposed to be an indie game. It has a stacked soundtrack of 90s music, none of which I find particularly interesting. As a person who was a teenager in the 90s, I don't like any of the music that they're doing. And the clips that I've seen have been actually nauseating. They have this low frame rate animation for the characters, which looks really awful. It's kind of like the complaints I had about certain movies lately, like Puss in Boots. Like the characters are moving at like 10 frames per second, but the background's moving at 60 frames per second, and it just looks disgusting. But the thing is, it's not that nauseating because you apparently are not controlling your character very much. And that's been the kind of distilled point here, is that this is a barely interactive movie. And so is it a game? And one of the reasons I love this controversy, besides it being like Gamergate, I don't know what number we're on, 2.8, okay, where game journalists are, why are they liking this so much? Is it because they hate games? Is it because they were paid to like this? Is it because they're hoping for some scraps from a billionaire? I don't know. I'll leave you guys to conjecture on that. It doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense for real gamers to say, oh, this game is better than Skyrim, one of the greatest games ever, better than, Dark Souls, better than, you name the revolutionary games, better than Grand Theft Auto 3, better than Ocarina of Time. It's very rare for a game to be a 10 out of 10. Very rare, right? Even the best games ever, hitting 10 out of 10 is going to be pretty rare, right? Would you guys agree? So calling it a 10 when IGN calls it a 10, what the hell standard are they using to arrive at that number 10? But it's not there's not very much gameplay. And that's really what I want to get to, as far as my question for you is, what makes a game? Because I believe the art of a game is not in the graphics, although the graphics are art. It's not in the music, although the music is art. It is in the gameplay. That is what makes a game a game. So if the game doesn't have gameplay, is it a game? Well, for people who want gameplay light, this problem has actually been solved, and it was solved over 20 years ago. It's called the visual novel. And so people who don't want to play games that are skill intensive, games that require something of the player, games where the focus is on the gameplay and the focus is on some sort of story with a little bit of interactive element to it, well, the Japanese already fixed that problem. It's called the visual novel. And the PlayStation Vita is once again one of the best platforms to get visual novels on. But you can play visual novels. They're all over Steam. I've talked about a couple of them on the channel that I played through, and I thought that they were good. I've even told it the idea of creating a visual novel myself, because I think it would be a great hobby project. I just haven't really had the time to think about doing something that would require that much of me, because a visual novel is a step up in effort and skill, as far as the amount of skills that I'd have to assemble in order to create it, compared to writing a book. So it's writing a book plus programming, plus music, plus art, plus business management of a different business that I'm not already in. You guys get the idea. It's definitely a step up, but it would be certainly less intensive than trying to do a real game, a game that's like gameplay focused. And this has never been a controversy in Japan, but you never hear game journalists talk about visual novels. They never review them. They don't care about them. They're just invisible to the Western game journo, because the problem's already solved, right? And what they want to do is they want to be activist reviewers, and they want to promote things that go in the direction that they like and demote things that go in the direction they don't like. And this goes way back. You can find articles in the 90s lambasting Castlevania Symphony of the Night. one of the greatest games ever made for being 2D in the era of 3D games, right? The new hotness in the PlayStation 1, N64, or Sega Saturn era was to have everything be 3D and not be 2D, no matter how beautiful it was, no matter how great the gameplay was, how great the story was, how great the music was, which Symphony of the Night, it's banging on every single category, But it got lambasted because it wasn't a 3D game. Journalists thought that games needed to be 3D because they could be 3D. And so the trend for the last, 15 years maybe, I think Last of Us really was like the gym for the game journos of this is what games should be. But The Last of Us had gameplay. It had a lot of story. It had a lot of cutscenes. It was cinematic. It had good graphics, but it had gameplay still. But there's been this focus on cinematic games. I can think of something that's very cinematic, and it's called going to the movies. So that's what Mixtape is for the reviewers that I've seen review it. Now, I would love to play this game on stream. Apparently, it's only 3 hours long. So that's like watching one of the Lord of the Rings movies. So I could just stream that on a Sunday afternoon. So maybe I'll do that. I don't know if I want to take the money hit because it probably won't make me any money. It would just be a service to you guys so that you wouldn't have to buy the game. You could see what it's all about. You could see the cringe millennial. They're calling it millennial. It's really Gen Y. If it's talk about the 90s, right? We're talking about that younger cohort, the 80s kids. The kids who were born in the 80s like me. So you can get some of that cringe reference humor that we liked in the 90s. My generation's very cringe. People who are like, you hate on the boomer. It's like, I wrote a whole book about how my generation was bad. It's called Afterglow, Generation Y. You could check it out. But anyway, I'd love to do that because that would just be some direct information. You could trust me to review something fairly. I love the idea of this discussion, though, because it brings up this question, like how much gameplay does a game need to have? Is this a game? Is this a different form of media that we should approach different from a game? That question was kind of already solved with visual novels, as I mentioned, but maybe this is something else in the visual novel direction. A semi-interactive movie, a movie that you can give some inputs to. We kind of already have that with Netflix, right? There's the choose your own adventure stuff on Netflix. I've seen that, We're not breaking a whole lot of new ground, but maybe for game journalists, this is an exciting, groundbreaking idea. I think what's really probably great breaking ground is hoping to get invited to a party. But I digress. I love to have that discussion. I would love for people to give their input. Like, should we treat this the same as games? Should we actually say this is a game that's better than Skyrim, right? A game that's delivered thousands of hours of entertainment over 15 years. Or should we treat it as a different form of media? Is there room for a different form of media? I think there is. It's the visual novel. So you could take the structure of the visual novel and hype up the production. It's not an indie game anymore, but you could hype up that production and make it really, really slick and make it more like an interactive movie. But then we really need to put it in a little bit of a different category. It's not a game. Okay, it is at that point an interactive movie, and you just evaluate it based on those merits. And if you're evaluating it based on these merits, maybe this game actually still sucks. Maybe as an interactive movie, it's just not a very good story. What I've seen of it seems pretty cringe. I don't want to judge a thing I haven't played. Like I said, maybe I could just stream it because it's a 3-hour short game. But as soon as you see, oh, it's a 3-hour game, is it worth your money? Is it a good value proposition? A lot of things start to enter into the reasoning and the questions that we have for this. So yeah, it all smells fishy to me. Why is the entire games journalist industry kind of circling the wagons on this kind of non-game, gameplay light? Why don't they ever talk about other things that are gameplay light, that are actually indie games? This calls back to last year. Expedition 33 was called this indie game, and it's like, oh, well, turns out it's not actually an indie game. And it was like made by Ubisoft. But because indie games have been where so many fans have been interested, because indie games will produce often unique concepts. They're made with heart. They're made with love. Well, maybe we could capture that indie game category, right? Authors did this too. Like they would put their books into categories where they could be an instant bestseller by selling like 10 copies. And they'd be like, I'm an Amazon bestseller. It's like, but you look at the category and it's like, superhero novels for 4-year-olds. You're like, I didn't know that was a category, but you got a bestseller in it. Good for you. So it might be some more of that intrusion in there. Like, okay, the indie space is what's hot in games. So we're going to enter into that, and we're going to take the prize. We're going to take the money in the indie space. And maybe this is some variant of that. But anyway, what are your thoughts on it? Is it a game? Should we treat it as a game? Should it be treated by something else? Should people remember that the Japanese already solved the gameplay light problem, and you can read and enjoy and play visual novels and not have to worry about anybody caring about tearing you down for doing so, because it's not masquerading as a gameplay heavy element. No one is reading like the Fate Stay Night version whatever and saying that is a better thing to do than Skyrim. That's a pretty rare thing. It's just considered a different category of thing, and that's probably the best way to think about it. So I'd love to know your thoughts, and if you would want to see me play that on stream, and that's maybe save you a couple dollars, and you know just what you're getting. I don't think it's a thing that's going to have a lot of replayability. You let me know, and I'll talk to you all next time. Have a great day.